Hello and welcome to the World Series preview edition of One Cardinal, One Cub, and One Beer. There will be no Cardinals or Cubs in the World Series, but there's going to be plenty of beer. I can guarantee you that because it's baseball. And what goes better with baseball than beer? Only Cracker Jacks.
Hot dog.
According to the song, I don't know. So anyway, you ask you to like us on Facebook, follow us on X, and you can contact us through onecard1cup1beer@gmail.com. You can subscribe to our page by clicking on the icon at the bottom right. Those of you who are on Mac or PC, if you're watching on a traditional television, streaming it through the television, at the end of the video, just go to the icon of our logo. That's what I mean to say. Highlight the logo, hit enter, and you'll be ours for life. If you want to support us through Patreon, and we do wish you would, go to patreon.com and search for One Cardinal, One Cub, and One Beer. And you can support us for as little as $3 a month. And every penny of that will be going into our grand prize of our contest, which is Name the Cub. Let me get this dude back on here. Wait a minute.
Oh, there he is.
There we go. Okay.
There he is.
I had no correct guesses this week.
Oh, hey. You want to give a clue? No, I didn't either.
No, I'm not going to give a clue. I'm going to erase this sucker because this was hard. The only way you would have got it if you would have remembered the previous episode when I said that Dave Rosello had a fro like Oscar Gamble. This is Dave Rosello, a very minor character in Cubdom. So next week I'll put another player on there, so it won't be nearly this hard. But I did put him up there because I did mention him in the previous episode, and absolutely nobody remembered the previous episode. So oh well, that's life. And and remember those. For our contest, if you're just joining us and don't know what we're doing, we've got the Name the Cub contest. Every couple of weeks, I'll have a different Cub behind me. And if you're the first one that reaches out to either me or JJ, and you can reach out anyway, you can call us up, you can send us a text, you can put a message on Facebook, you can put a message on the YouTube video. Anyway, first person that tells us who the name of this person is, you get a tally. Now, that doesn't mean anything to you, but we're going to have this contest going through the end of spring training. And by the end of spring training, the person who has the most tallies are going to win a prize package that's worth like $3 million. In it, you will get the official One Cardinal, One Cub, One Beer mug. You will get the 500 milliliter One Cardinal, One Cub, and One Beer drinking thermos. And on the back, it has that we drop our episodes most Wednesdays by noon, even though we are recording.
I like the icons. I like the icons on the back. Very nice.
Yeah, thank you. We have the One Cardinal, One Cub, One Beer license plate. Put that on your car and get pulled over because you don't have proper license plate if you want. JJ is wearing the official One Cardinal, One Cub, and One Beer shirt. You will also win 2 tickets to a ball game. We're going to try to make it a Cardinal Cub game. And we're going to try. You're either going to be sitting in the nosebleed or you're going to be anywhere up to a luxury suite. That is contingent upon how much Patreon money we get. So if you want to support us through Patreon, that's what the money's going for right now. We do have one person who has requested to buy one of our t-shirts. So if you want to buy one of the t-shirts, next week I will have the information on how you can order your very own t-shirts. I don't even have prices figured out yet. So
these are the official One Cardinal, One Cub, One Beer t-shirts, not these black market ones where Vince has a patch on one eye and I got a beard. All right, these are the official ones.
Yeah, I saw one of those bootleg ones, JJ, where you were naked on there. I mean,
you don't want that. Nobody wants that.
Little commercial. One of our faithful viewers, Mr. Dan Rutledge, He is promoting a comedy competition on the 4th of November. It's at Tetros restaurant in Festus, and Tetros is a tremendous room. We've done a lot of comedy shows there, and the food is excellent. We're talking about the best Cajun food in the St. Louis area. And I've had a lot of Cajun in the St. Louis area, and it's the best that you're going to find. So those of you who are in this area, if you want to come and have a good night of comedy, it's a competition. He's got 6 fantastic comics that are going to be competing for a prize of $250. It's $15 a ticket. And JJ, how do they get those tickets, or did they just pay at the door? Or
yeah, pay at the door, or Dan has something sent up where you can get it online, but that is kind of out of my realm right there. And or if you see me or Dan, we're selling them, and we've got about, I think we got about 60% of the room sold out already. So we're going pretty fast with 2 weeks to go. Yeah,
that's awesome. And JJ will be co-hosting with Dan, so so come and see JJ live. And gentlemen, I mean, he'll sign your breast, okay? So that's how cool JJ is. I was gonna go, and then my daughter sent me a text the other day, say, "Hey Dad, on November 4th, do you want to go see the hockey game in the suite?"
Oh wow, you gotta go.
I kind of gotta go. I've never been to a Blues hockey game. I'm not that big of a hockey fan. I was when I was a kid, and then I kind of lost it in the 90s when hockey became really boring. Those of you who remember hockey in the 90s, when it was just clutching and grabbing, and they had to slow down Gretzky some way, so it became a boring game. So I just kind of never picked it up again. But I'm looking forward to going. Free night in the suite, all the food and drink I can have, and
oh man,
yeah, I deserve
That's
it.
pretty cool. Who are they playing? Who are they playing that night?
They're playing another hockey team. That's all I know.
Ooh, man, that's always the best.
So, let's start with Bob Melvin, who got hired officially by the San Francisco Giants. First of all, do either of you two think that he did a good job with the Padres?
Not really. That team clearly had culture issues. I mean, they weren't bad roster-wise.
Talent-wise, they were awesome.
Oh, yeah. Every time you see a close-up of him on the bench show, he looks so unhappy. I don't know what was going on behind the scenes. But Bob Melvin's a good manager. With the Oakland A's, he overachieved with that group and was 3-time manager of the year. And we all know what happened the last time the Giants signed a Padre manager. What happened? Remember who that was the last time a Padre?
Bruce Bochy.
Bruce Bochy. I'm just saying, that is history right there. Maybe that's more for their liking, although it's odd that they let the Giants talk to him. They must have had other plans coming up. I was going to ask you, who do you think's on their radar? Have you heard anybody who's on the radar to go down there and manage the Padres?
Yes, actually. I heard Mike Schilt, which is...
If they don't promote Mike Schilt, I will wonder what's going on in San Diego. But
what about Joe Madden? I've heard people mention Joe Madden as a guy who's really good with players.
I don't think he really wants to manage anymore, does he?
Oh, is he done? Oh, I don't.
Yeah, I think
he
just wants to complain about analytics now. I think that's what he wants to do.
He's not an analytics guy, and that's what everybody's hiring. So my thing with Bob Melvin is he had arguably the most talented team the last 2 years. Underachieved both years, even though they made it in the playoffs last year. They got hot during their playoff run and almost made it to the World Series. But this was a dysfunctional team. And once more, I asked the question that I asked last week. What the hell does a manager do anymore? Because obviously the Cubs, they got rid of their strategy coach. So managers don't do strategy anymore. They certainly don't construct the roster. They have a bench coach who tells them all the things that they need to be thinking of. Okay. So we kind of concluded that, they rah, rah, rah. They do this, they foster clubhouse cohesion, I guess you could say.
That's a good one.
Melvin didn't do that. So I just wonder, I don't know what the allure was. It seems like there would be if I was the Giants, I would have talked to Shelt.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of something I wanted to throw at you. Also, winter meetings is December 4th through 7th. I brought this up last year, but we didn't discuss it. I just kind of threw it out there. Nobody remembers it because, that was like 55 episodes ago. I wish Major League Baseball would have a 2-week window and start the first day of the winter meetings. Then you got 14 days to sign free agents. And then you put a freeze on it. No more free agent signings until the opening of spring training. That way, you have a 2-week frenzy that would be so much fun to watch of all these high-priced players being courted hard in a short period of time. And you've got all this press because they're all getting these, you're signing the big guys, at this time. And then everybody that's left over that didn't get signed, you've got intrigue at the beginning of spring training. Who's left out there? Who's left out there that we could sign that's really good? Maybe there's a player that slipped through the cracks, or a really good pitcher who wasn't quite at that big level, but he's on a few radars. I just think it would be so much better if we did it that way, because I think isn't that the kind of the NBA system?
Well,
What are
the
your
NBA
thoughts on
system
that?
is weird. It's like they have a date where it opens, and then there's like an hour-long period where everyone signs their contracts, and you're technically they're not supposed to talk before that period, but 5 minutes after they can start signing players, deals will start coming in. It's like, how do you work out a deal in 5 minutes? But it's somewhat similar.
I'm okay with that. I mean, I think it's a good idea for the fans. It'd be great. You only have to focus on what you say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then you kind of know, then everything, the dust settles. You can kind of look around. Oh, we should get that guy and this guy. Right now, it seems like it drags out, and there's rumors. People, I remember one year David Price was a guy on the Cardinals radar, and then this team was courting him, and then the Cardinals were in the front, and all of a sudden the Red Sox grabbed him. And that went on for like a month. It was a long thing. It'd be fun for the fans. I don't know about getting everything, all the dots signed and the T's crossed, but for us, it'd be very entertaining.
I like it because it takes you up until the week before Christmas. Then you've got Christmas, New Year, January, and then about the 10th of February is when spring training opens. So yeah, I like this 7-week period where there's nothing going on, which is fine, because that's when the football playoffs start, and you're going to go all the way to the Super Bowl. So who's looking at baseball at that time anyway? Just the nerds like us. But other than that, you don't need a whole lot of press during that time for baseball, because you're not going to get it because it's football time. You got the national championship for college football at that time, and you've got the NFL playoffs with the Super Bowl climaxing at the first week of February. So I just think that when you look at the broad spectrum of sports, it fits in nicely. It creates some excitement at the very beginning of winter, and then it takes this time off. And then spring training becomes more than just spring training. It's a secondary signing period. You got so much neat stuff that's going to happen. I just think that would be I think it would be more fan friendly to do it that way. But
I vote for you for commissioner. That's a good commissioner move there, Commissioner Hopper.
Thank you. Anything in general chat you want to talk about?
Well, they had the Gold Glove announcements. I wrote down all the National League guys. You guys should be happy. A lot of Cubs in there. A lot of guys. Any surprises for you as far as the
Ian Happ
finalists?
probably.
Ian Happ's a huge surprise.
He's got a good arm. He led the league in outfield assists. That's the only defensive category he led in. So,
Well, I was Arenado. I'll be honest with you. I watch all the Cardinal games. I thought he did a great job. I thought he's fantastic. Maybe the other three guys did a better job this year. I can't speak on that. I just know I thought Arenado was as solid as he's ever been. The only person that we have nominated is Tommy Edman, and I think he's got a great shot at getting that utility Gold Glove because he played center field, short, second, all the corners in the outfield too. So he's got a shot at that utility one. But again, I only watch the Cardinals every game. These other guys may have had a better year, and I just am unaware of it. But that's kind of sad. We went from all those Gold Gloves down to one nominee, and he may not even get that. But that's pretty cool. I'm not. I tell you what, the people that did make it for the base, that Hayes kid from Pittsburgh is fantastic. I probably watched about 10 games he played, and man, you can't get much better at that at third base. So if he won that, I wouldn't be disappointed at all.
Yeah, Hayes is about as good as you're going to get. And I don't know, maybe Arenado, maybe his metrics is showing that he's slowing down a bit. Hayes gets to everything.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he got to a few balls in the parking lot. He's that good. But
I've seen plays with now the net around the infield where the foul ball area so the fans don't get hit with line drives. I've seen the players use the net to make plays. I've seen a few players just kind of jump and get in the net and catch the ball, and the net kind of catches them and brings them back onto the field. And that's pretty cool aspect of the game. I've seen the Cardinals do that. I think Tommy Edman, as a matter of fact, is the guy I've seen do that. So that's a new aspect to the defense too, is these guys, they can know that the net will stop them from flying into the stands as well. So anyway, yeah. I seen Tommy Edman do that, and I was like, man, that's a heck of I didn't even think of that play.
Yeah, concerning the Cubs that are on the list, I Swanson's a lock. And I think Horner is probably the favorite.
Yeah, if Kim wins utility, Horner will win the second base one probably, if I had to guess.
Max, why don't you elaborate on Cap's year in left field?
He just a huge step back. Won a Gold Glove last year. His arm is amazing, but just he lost range. His routes weren't as good. And granted, left field isn't a very defensively needing position. I mean, the other guys who are nominated aren't amazing, but they are better defenders than Happ. The only way I see Happ getting it is name recognition, and maybe people really like his arm, but both DRS and UZR absolutely hate him. Outs above average pretty much hates him, so I don't think he'll win it in left.
When he was nominated, what?
Well, I think of left fielders in the National League. There aren't many good ones who are good defensively. That's just kind of how that works. I mean, Juan Soto got nominated last year, and he was like the worst defender I've ever seen in right. So sometimes it's about offense.
You got a point. I just watching him every day in the bad routes and the little fumbles and whoops, I dropped the ball when you're right. He does have a great arm, and he had that game. Was it against the Brewers when he threw out two runners? And
yeah, it was Pluncey's debut where they flew into two double plays in back-to-back innings.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in left field. It's him, David Peralta, and Eddie Rosario. So I don't watch enough Dodgers or Braves games, but I thought both were part-time players. But apparently
I've seen Eddie Rosario when he was with the Twins, because I watched quite a few Twins games because they're one of my teams in the American League that I like. nothing special in left field, and David Peralta, and who knows? But they got to give it to someone, I guess.
Yeah.
What's the criteria for being the utility person? How many positions?
Let's see. It doesn't say on MLB.com, but I mean, all three guys who are nominated, Mookie played some, I think, second base and shortstop a little bit. Ha-Sung Kim plays absolutely everywhere. He's my pick for it. That guy, defensively, he's a wizard. Put up like a 6.4 season. And then Tommy Edman, of course, we know what he could do. So, is he a free agent this year?
I don't believe so. But I actually don't think I see us trading him. He's got great value, and we need pitching. And I see we just got too many utility guys, too many infielders, too many outfielders. We're gonna have to thin out the herd because we got another whole bunch coming. So I hate to see that, but if he did get the Gold Glove, it make him more valuable and good trade piece. But he's probably one of my favorite Cardinals on the team.
Yeah, he's ARB eligible, so if he wins that, he'll probably get a decent raise.
Yeah, see, I was wondering, would Bellinger have been eligible for that because he played first and center, and he played both very, very well. But it's almost like it seems like this is a middle infielder type award more than, first base. There's some great first basemen, but it's not the most challenging position in baseball unless you put Trey Mancini up there.
Yeah.
Mancini wisdom. Yeah, we've made it challenging. We've made it harder than it needs to be. JJ, anything going on in Cardinal news and Cub news and Cardinal news?
Oh man, I had a note there. Well, sort of, kinda. There's a special committee, a modern era committee that's going to be voting on managers, executives, and umpires a ballot. And there's a group of 10 historians. Vince, one day we need to be on that historian group that nominates these people.
Okay.
They're from all over the country, and they've nominated 4 managers, 2 umpires, and 2 executives. And all they need is 75% of the vote to make it. And the 4 managers, Cito Gaston, of course, I think of him with Blue Jays, Davey Johnson, Jim Leland, and Lou Piniella. Much respect for all those guys. 2 umpires, Ed Montague and Country Joe West. We've talked about him several times on here. And then this other Hank Pentort, and I don't know him. He's passed on, but he's had a long history with Major League Baseball, and of course Bill White. And when I say Cardinal news, that's because Bill White was on those 60s Cardinals teams, and a great player. He was a announcer, first African American who was a radio announcer for a team. He was with the Yankees for years and years. He was the National League president for a long time. Very accomplished guy, and I could see Bill White making it into the Hall of Fame as an executive. Always was a big fan of his. He was a very good player, a good steady guy on the team, and a real good baseball player as well. But any thoughts on this modern era committee and their nominees?
I think Country Joe West is going in. I mean, he's umpired more games than anybody else. Yeah. Even though I'm not a fan of the man personally, yeah, I think he's a shoe-in. I think Cito Gaston does have 2 world championships, but I don't know if his whole body of work, if that's looked at as impressive as Leland and Piniella.
Yeah.
And White, I think it's time. So how many are they putting in? Does it just have to have 75%?
Just 75% of the vote. Usually when they do this, it's usually 2 at max, one for sure.
Yeah, I think West, first of all, what what would be blocking West? Another umpire to get in? No, I just don't see how you don't put him in. Pinella, Leland, both really deserve to be put in too. It'd just be fascinating to see what they come up with. As long as LaRusse is not on the committee and we have, some utility infielder, say for a bat boy, put me in, and LaRusse said lobby for it.
That's true. Harold Baines.
So
that's about it in Cardinal news. Just it's been quiet. Nothing really going on there. The awards will be coming up soon, but I don't see the Cardinals. I don't even get nominated for any of the awards this year.
Yeah.
If Walker, I don't even know it'll be Corbin Carroll, but Walker, he might be one of the top three. I don't know. Probably not, though.
Well, in Cub news, I'll start off with the light stuff. Yamamoto, the pitching phenom from Japan that the big market teams are running after, which is good because he has said that he only wants to play for a large market team. So these Japanese players who come here are pretty shrewd. They know that, to maximize their financial value, they need to play for a large market team and succeed. And you think about going back to Nomo, Los Angeles, Matsui in New York, Otani, Los Angeles.
Ichiro went to Seattle, though. That was,
yeah, but he did. It was very strategic because one of his draws for Seattle is it is the closest MLB team to Japan, and they kind of have a following there. They were owned by Nintendo for a while.
Nintendo owned them for a little bit, so
yeah. And it would be easier. We wanted to be on the West Coast because the games would be easier to be shown in Japan. And at that time, Ichiro was a rock star in Japan. Good looking, athletic. He was there.
Just like me.
He was their Muhammad Ali.
There was their Max.
Yeah, he was their Maxwell opera.
Yeah.
But he transcended baseball in Japan. And kind of like Otani did when he came here. The other players have been great. A lot of them, some of them haven't washed out, but they've been really good here. But they've been baseball players, whereas Ichiro and Otani have been just megastars who've come over. So Yamamoto wants to play for a large market. How about the second city? Huh?
Sure.
Yeah. Cubs are linked to Matt Chapman. I was on here last week saying that we will sign Candelario for 2 more years, and then within 48 hours, I'm reading all these things that the Cubs are linked to Matt Chapman. So what do I know?
He's a good buy low guy.
Huh?
He's a good buy low guy, so
it would give us the best infield defense in baseball. So I could go for that. Probably the biggest news that's happened in Cubdom is that our assistant GM, Craig Breslow, has left us and went to the Red Sox. And people are like, oh, big deal. So this was the guy who oversaw our pitching lab. This is the guy who all these pitchers have developed under. And remember, before him, we couldn't develop anybody but slow pitch softball players. This guy transformed us into an organization that's starting to crank out pitchers who can be high leverage pitchers. The starters are looked at to be, 1s, 2s, 3s, some 4s, some 5s, but basically he's transformed our pitching, and now he's going to the Red Sox. I hope we don't screw it up by hiring somebody like me to be the assistant GM and oversee the pitching. But I don't know who's going to be the new assistant GM, who is going to have their hands on the pitchers and the pitch lab and the whole pitching philosophy, but I sure hope they don't screw this up when they hire someone. I hope they hire someone who can just step right in and keep it going. Max, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't think they're going to go outside of the organization I think they'll promote from within. You might see Tommy Hotovy be promoted from pitching coach. He may want to work more in the organization as, a front office guy instead of kind of being that on the field pitching coach. We could see that. I'm not too worried about it because, he's done his stuff here. I kind of thinking about I guess not even pitching coaches. Well, it's easy to think of pitching coaches, but Brent Strom with the Astros, they let go of him. Their staff's been okay. So I'm not too concerned about it. I think he's a great guy. He did wonders for the Cubs. Maybe he'll do some cool stuff in Boston. But I think they're gonna promote from within, unless they really like someone on the outside. But all I can think of is Kim Ng for the Marlins, but I think she's looking more for like a higher role than assistant GM.
Oh yeah, she's not going to
Yeah,
be
that'd be a step down.
Well, we have two teams in the World Series. I love this World Series because we have the Diamondbacks, who have not won it since for 21 years. Was it 2001 they won it? Somewhere around there.
22.
And we have the Rangers, who've never won it. They should have won it, but David Freese threw a fit and stole the trophy, so they haven't won it. So because of that, I am slightly rooting for the Rangers, but either team. Max, remember when we watched the Cubs just completely get outclassed and outpitched and lose 6 out of 7 games to an Arizona team who neither of us really respected at that time?
Yeah, I remember quite well.
A podcast that you turned me on to, the Ian podcast.
The Compound, yeah, the Ian Happ one.
Yeah. He was saying last week or 2 weeks ago that bullpen is nasty. And he was saying no matter who they brought in and you name names, they are for real. And then they went out and they shoved in Philadelphia, and then they planted the flag, which I thought, maybe you shouldn't have done that on the turf in Philadelphia, but they planted the National League pennant flag in the turf in Philadelphia. But man, that team can pitch.
They've won 3 bullpen games in the playoffs alone.
Yes.
It's crazy.
So, gentlemen, what do you think about this matchup?
It's entertaining.
Yes, it's going to be fun. Apparently I don't know anything about baseball. We had the previews at the beginning of the year. We sort of redid what we thought going into the playoffs. I've been wrong most of the time, and I did not see Arizona, who I thought kind of crept into the playoffs, and the Rangers, who looked like they kind of lost it there at the end, where the Astros caught them at the end of the season and took over first, and they had to go play the wild card round. I would have never thought these two teams. It's been so entertaining, and it's fun to watch people watch the series, because like when Philadelphia won the first 2 games and they kind of took it to them, people were well, you're not good. This team can't win a game in Philadelphia. They've got this huge advantage with the fans, and they do. But Arizona went home, won 2 out of 3, fought. This team fights. They never give up. And, if you saw this roster, it's a lot of young guys. And sometimes just magic happens. Sometimes it's a veteran that finds himself, a Michael Brantley, or we had a Cesar Cedeno one year that came over and just, you couldn't get the guy out. And then sometimes it's a young guy like a David Freese, or I'm so impressed by Thomas and Corbin Carroll on the Diamondbacks. They're fun to watch. And like you said, that bullpen, the Phillies bullpen from last year and the Astros bullpen were so highly touted. But I don't know how you guys feel about this, but now that we're in this tournament era of the playoffs, I think when you go a year or two in the playoffs and have to go deep and use these guys over and over, the other teams see them. I think it's rough on them because this is like another whole month they're pitching games, and then you only have a less of a month to recover to start the next season. It's just rough on these guys, and a lot of them are very talented. But I didn't think the Astros bullpen was as good as they were last year. Last year they were just so dominant, and then the Phillies bullpen, they've got some big names in there too, and they just Kimbrel. I don't know if this is the beginning of the end of him, but he was like he just didn't have it this year.
Yeah,
But
his
I think that extra
fastball's
month
dropped.
is so tough. Oh yeah, his ERA. I have his ERA on here somewhere. I just couldn't believe 4 games. I think it was 12. His ERA through 4 games was 12, and I was like, "Oh, that's not the Kimbrel we all know." And he dominated for years and years. But then, how do you feel about that extra month now? It's just not a series or two. It's you're going through. By the time the World Series is over, some teams are going through 4 series, and then you got to heal up and come back the next year. I don't know. It maybe ruffled some of these pitchers.
And maybe it still goes by pretty fast compared to the NBA playoffs, which drag on forever. I'd like this format. I'd like I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of these series went kind of long too. Both championship series went 7 games, but I don't think it's that big of a deal because the rosters expand, so they could add another pitcher and stuff like that.
Okay.
I thought the Rangers took great at bats. And they didn't try to pull everything. They would go the opposite way. And I think it was Verlander, just he's hittable now. And that kind of showed there. And Carroll and Gallen, and I've heard it pronounced fat. I've heard it pronounced fat. Fart, Pfaadt. He looks like he's legit. I did say at the beginning of the playoffs, if Corbin Carroll goes crazy, he could carry this team to a long run. And I think he entered last night's game hitting like 130 for the series. And I thought they got this far. This guy hasn't even contributed. And he was the catalyst that won the game for them yesterday, aside from the great pitching. So that was kind of cool to see him come through finally in Game 7. But I do think that the Rangers, I thought once it got to a Game 7, I thought they would be fine. The reason I thought they would be fine is because Bruce Bochy is probably the best Game 7 manager I've seen in my lifetime. And because he's never lost a Game 7. That's why I say that. So, and Dusty hasn't won a Game 7, so it was inevitable. So who do you think?
I was looking at some of these stats. Like the Astros, some of their big stars showed up. Alvarez, that guy hit 481. He's like, you said, why pitch to him? I remember Vince, you said last week, don't even pitch to the guy. And they did pitch around him some there, and I think that was a wise move. I think Bochy must be listening to this podcast.
Oh, certainly.
Yes, of course. In between victories. And Altuve, he hit very well. He hit over 300 as well. And that guy comes up so big. We're looking at some Altuve. We're just looking at a Hall of Famer there. That guy is something special. He's a gamer. When he hits a home run, he just runs around the bases and gets congratulations from. He's not dancing or nothing. He's been there before. He's done this, and he's just a guy you'd like to have on your team. What a player!
That Game 5 was tremendous.
It was a pleasure. I didn't want it to end. It was so good. Yeah.
When the Rangers went up, and then Garcia got hit by the pitch, and apparently he's got issues with Maldonado. He didn't even turn to the pitcher, and they start going at it. And you're thinking, okay, this is in Texas. This is going to really fire them up. No, it just fired up the other team, fired up the Astros, and Altuve hit that home run to win it. It was like, wow.
Oh. But even then, Alvarez walked Garcia to first base. I thought, oh, that's kind of odd. The other guy on that team, they must be friends. They must know each other. And he was talking to him, and settling them down. And I've never seen Dusty Baker so mad in my life. He was really giving an umpire heck. I don't know if they made the right decision or not. They threw out, and he'll have to do a 2-game suspension at the beginning of next year. That's kind of crazy. I would have never thrown out Dusty Baker, though, no matter what, unless he just threatened to kill everybody. Just, okay, Dusty, you said your 2 cents. All right. But yeah.
Well, that's got out of hand. Right.
Yeah. Well, do you think it was a strategy by Garcia? If he comes in and hits me, I'm going to throw a fit, and he'll have to do something about this. Maybe he had that in his mind already, and then I'll make such a big commotion that the umpire's going to have to do something. And maybe that was a little strategy there, a little gamemanship. I don't know.
Boy, I don't know. I think there's just so much heat there that he got hit, and because it was already up to here, even before the series started. So I think when he got hit, because previously during the season, he and Maldonado were the two that got into it. So I just thought it was interesting. He didn't go yell at the pitcher. He turned and said something to Maldonado, and there it went.
And there was already a man on first. And in a big game like that, you're not going to hit a guy and put.
Oh no, there was no reason to throw at the guy. I mean, but when you're in the heat of the moment and your temperature's already up because you don't like this team and they've just hit you, his gut reaction was,
yeah.
It was like he was turning to Maldonado and blaming him like he called the pitch, and I'm sure that he didn't.
Yeah. I'm sure.
I got a question for you. This has to do with the World Series a little bit, but more or less with the Cardinals. Garcia. Who was responsible for letting him go?
I don't know, and it wasn't for nothing. I think it was cash consideration.
Mozeliak? I
don't know what was. Oh yeah, he had to oversee it. That was during his reign. So yeah, it was Mozeliak, and I can't believe it.
I've kind of looked back the last few years. Mozeliak has done some things that are head scratchers.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Letting him go.
I can think of at least 5 things off the top of my head.
But I think he gave Arozarena up for Libator, and
the Zach Gallen trade also.
Gallen.
Sandy Alcantara.
You could even lump Patrick Wisdom in there. The DFA'd him, and he hit like 60 home runs for us. But like that happens all the time. I feel like, and like with Garcia especially. I mean, he also the way the Rangers DFA'd him too, so he passed through waivers. No one else claimed him, so the Cardinals could have scooped him back up if they wanted. Anyone could have taken him. Sometimes guys like that, they just fall through the cracks, and then they get an opportunity with another team, and they just hit like that, and they turn it on.
Well, this is my point with Mozeliak. He was looked at as such a great general manager. He doesn't bring in the big name free agents. He always gets outbid by them. And that may be DeWitt's boys with the purse strings, or he's just too cautious. His trades are usually good. Arenado was a trade. Goldschmidt was a trade. His trades, he seems to get good value, but he does trade for people who want out. So you can, if someone wants out, they're throwing a big enough fit and they got a contract, the team says, okay, he's being a headache, I want to dump him. You can give up a lot less. So that's the kind of trade he kind of specializes in. It's the kind of trade the Cardinals have specialized in since McGuire. Get rid of these or trade for these malcontents that we don't have to give up a lot for. But other than that, I'm thinking I'm not sure Louise Robert, remember when they got outbid by the White Sox?
I know, and it was
And
money at
it was,
all. It wasn't much money at all.
yeah, it wasn't much money at all. I'm kind of thinking it's. I know a lot of people in St. Louis don't like him. I've always thought he was a pretty good general manager, but now I'm kind of thinking maybe if I really take a deep dive into this, maybe the Cardinals can go in a different direction. I mean, it doesn't seem like they're going to.
His contract's like 2 years. I think he's got 2 years left on his contract. And they're talking about he'd like to lead the team in a good state with all these young players coming up. It sounds like he's not going to be around after 2 more years. But if you look at the DeWitts, they took over the team in '96, and we've really never went after a top free agent. We hear stories like, oh, we were second for this guy or second for that guy. Anytime a new manager comes over from another team, we always get a bunch of guys from his team. When Whitey came here, we got Daryl Porter and Mark Littell. We got a bunch of Royals players. And when Tony La Russa came over in '96, when DeWitt bought the team, Todd Stoudemire was like the first trade we made. Mike Gallego, we got Rick Honeycutt. And then later on, we just see, and my friends always go, oh, the Cardinals go for low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging fruit. That's a favorite thing to say. But it does seem like that. But our trades have always been pretty good ones. Even the trading deadline, I like the moves we made. Flaherty had kind of a mixed reaction with fans here, and he didn't do very good for Baltimore. And I think he was expecting big money this time around. Montgomery, God love him. He's been fantastic for the Rangers. And God, I'm so happy for him, but he wasn't going to come back. Stratton had high ERA in there, and we've got 3 pretty good players for him. Moved some guys to the Blue Jays. So through the years, we've made some pretty good trades. I know Hayward, Ozuna, man, I could think of a bunch of them. Arenado, and we got the Rockies to pay. Like his first year, they paid that. Well, when we made the trade,
about that.
I can't believe
ridiculous.
It. Yeah.
You guys gave up nothing, by the way. Like nothing.
McGuire, we gave up.
McGuire's trade was absolutely nothing. TJ Matthews from Columbia, Illinois.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Blake Stein, was it? His brother Franklin Stein was very popular. He was a monster on the mound.
Well, and then we pick up veterans too. I mean, it was such an honor to have Carlos Beltran and Lance Berkman and
John Lester.
Yeah, John Lester. Yes, yes. And so, we picked up these guys, and but people will always focus on and I rightly so, Altuve, or not Altuve, but Alcantara. And all these guys that are just red hot right now. And Garcia, although I don't think he was that. And now Randy Flores has took over the minor leagues in the drafting. And we're starting to see over the last few years, a few more players coming up and getting awards in the minors and looking like guys who are going to step in and play some ball for us. So Randy Flores is one of the new guys that runs the minors, and I think he's doing a real good job.
Yeah. Yeah. The Cubs DFA Schwarber, but that was a financial thing that was directed from management. You got to cut money. And so they cut his head off. Here, go and become a postseason hero, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of.
I know
about that, and I do agree with you that Garcia, was even waived by the Rangers, and no one took him. Who saw this coming? I don't know. I didn't know anything about him. But let me say something in defense of your friends who say that DeWitt goes after low-hanging fruit. I've heard those very words come out of DeWitt's mouth. We're going to see what low-hanging fruit are out there. He uses that terminology. So,
oh man,
yeah, I've heard him on K-Fans. Yeah, we're gonna see what kind of low-hanging fruit we got out there. It should be interesting.
That's a terrible thing to say.
Yeah, how would you like to be the player they picked up?
I'm low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, I'm your rotten apple. Yeah, here we go. I also got a worm in me. So anyway, so who do you guys think? Who are you picking out of the two teams? I mean, let's just go through our futility of being wrong and just tell you what, if we all pick the same team, we could all be wrong. But if if two of us pick one of us pick the other, at least someone's going to be right. So, Max, who do you like in this?
I mean, it's hard not to go with a team that has a $500 million infield. But you know what? I'll pick the underdogs. The Diamondbacks. They've shown they can do this. They can be, those guys in October. I'm probably going to be wrong. I'm definitely going to be wrong. But gosh, their pitching is just so good. But the Rangers are just such a good team too. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of great. This is a great World Series for a neutral spectator like us because we don't. I don't know. I think it's going to be fun either way, and I really don't care who wins, which is awesome. And neither teams have like any former Cub players. I'm pretty sure. I can't think of anybody. Dansby was drafted by the Diamondbacks. People forget that, but that's the only guy I can think of. I can't think of anyone on the Rangers were former Cubs. Chapman, I guess, but it's not like I'm rooting for the guy who beat his wife. So Diamondbacks, why not?
Yeah.
JJ?
Well, Bruce Bochy. I got to go with Bruce Bochy. I would love to see Tech. I've been to their ballpark twice. The old one that was outside and the new one that's a retractable roof. Beautiful play. I don't know. It's kind of like playing inside a factory is what it looks like when you're playing there. It ain't Wrigley Field or Busch Stadium, but it does the job. But on those 104-degree days in Texas, it does the job. Also, I think Mad Max could be. He was hurt. He had that first start, didn't go so well. Second start was a short one. He maybe by the time he gets his third start, he can start finding his rhythm or something like that. But with I noticed that Zach Gallen, his last in this one, he looked a little hittable. Where the first two rounds he was unstoppable. So with that pitching staff and the bullpen, the way Bochy's been using them, Leclerc, that guy's nails. I have to go Rangers.
I think I'm going to go with the Diamondbacks. I've seen them enough this month. 7 games with the Cubs and then the playoff run. They're pretty impressive. They don't have the great names, but like Christian Walker is an excellent first baseman.
Yes, he is.
Marte is the best player maybe that people have not heard of. Carroll's good. Longoria, he's 96 years old, but I do like him being out there. And the catcher is a defensive stud. I kind of like this team. I like both teams, but I guess if you're going to force me, I'm going to pick the National League team that I've seen more of. So
yeah, that knocked us out also.
Oh, yeah. That's
right. Yep. And they were the 6th seed, weren't they?
I can't tell you.
Yeah, because they faced the Brewers. Yeah, they were the 6th seed.
The Brewers, so.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you know who else is going to be watching the World Series?
There's only one person.
Jeremy Connor. Comes a time in every man's life when he needs some advice on relationships. You need to listen to the podcast DMDR, which stands for Dating, Marriage, Divorce, Remarriage, from my good friend Jeremy Connor, the Dr. Phil of the Boot Hill. You can find DMDR on Spotify or whatever platform you choose to listen to your podcast. All right. We are going to talk about the 5 most memorable World Series moments in our lifetime. Of course, Max, since he's 8 years old, he doesn't remember a lot of these, but Max, chime in anytime if you remember any of these that we mentioned, if you've heard of them in lore, like back in the olden days in the 80s before we had electricity, some of these things. So I'll go ahead and go first. Okay, JJ?
Please do. All righty.
My 5th most memorable World Series moment that I have seen happened in Game 6, October 26th of 1986, and that was the ball rolling through Billy Buckner's legs. It happened in Shea
Yes.
Stadium. The Red Sox were one out from winning their first World Series title since 1918. Keith Hernandez is in the back with his uniform off, drinking a beer because they've lost. He knows they've lost the World Series. He's not even in the dugout with his team. So we're we're going into the top of the 10th. The Red Sox score the runs. There's 2 outs in the bottom of the 10th, and then the Red Sox pen coughed it up. Former Cub Calvin Schiraldi, he couldn't hold the lead, and it kind of played out like this. Ray Knight was on third. The score is tied at this point. So Dave Stapleton for the whole year would be brought in as a defensive replacement at first base in the 9th inning if the Red Sox were ahead. That was what John McNamara did. But he wanted Buckner to be on the field when they got that final out. That's why Buckner is playing first base. Buckner can barely walk at this time. So it's not Buckner's fault that he's out there. It was a managerial mishap. But Mookie, I almost said Mookie Betts, Mookie Wilson hit a slow ground ball right to Buckner, and it went right through his legs. He could have sat on the ball. I mean, it was that slow. And the winning run scored in Game 6, forcing a Game 7. And the following nights, the Mets overcame a 3-0 deficit in the 6th to win their second World Series, their first since 1969. That was my number 5 most memorable World Series moment in my lifetime. And I love Bill
That's
Buckner.
one of those moments that everybody remembers where they were. That was Tony Pruno's first date with his wife. His girl, he went out on a date. They eventually got married. That was their first date that night, watching that game on television. I remember that. Yeah. My grandfather, I was watching it with him. My grandfather, when he'd get mad, he'd slam that recliner down and he'd walk off and be mumbling to himself, because as Cardinal fans, we hate the Mets. Anybody beats the Mets is a friend of ours, and it was just one of those games right there. So anyway, I remember that game so well and have so many great memories of it. Well, I sort of have a game. I pick games more than I did a particular moment, and there's a reason why. My first number 5 is 2002. It's Game 6, and that's known as the Rally Monkey game, the Angels and the Giants. Remember the Rally? Yes. They had a little rally monkey that would jump up and down on the screen. In this game here, the Giants
mention.
Oh, you got it in your honorable mentions.
Yes, I do.
This game, it was Russell Ortiz was pitching for the Giants, and the Giants were just only 8 outs away from their first World Series in 48 years. Remember, this is 2002. Later, Bochy goes over there and wins 3, but this is 2002. And in the bottom of the 7th, Russell Ortiz was still pitching. He was starting to get tired, and a guy got a hit off his leg, and then the next guy walked. So they go to the bullpen, and then here comes the Angels. They were losing. Let's see, it was 5-0 in the bottom of the 7th, and they hit a 3-run homer to make it 5-3. And then in the 8th inning, they hit another 3-run homer to take the lead 6-5. And the reason this game means so much to me is I'm not a Barry Bonds fan. And Barry Bonds, I mean, he's a great player, stolen bases, home runs. He did the steroids. He hit all the home runs. And then now he's going to be world champion too. I'm not having any part of that. And the Angels came back, and the good guys win in the end, and they go to Game 7 and they win the game. I have some notes here about the home runs. Gloss, a lot of guys on that Angel team later became Cardinals. There was Tim Salmon, or not Salmon, was a Troy Gloss, David Eckstein, both the Molinas, Yadier's brothers were on that team as well. And the home run in the 7th inning, the 3-run homer, was Scott Spezio, a guy who later becomes a Cardinal. And he's not known for his home runs. And in the 8th inning, it was a solo shot by Darren Erstad, and he got that 8th inning rally going with 3 runs. So that Game 6 was something else. It was intense. I think they already had the champagne set up in the Giants locker room, and then the Angels come back, win it, and then take Game 7 and become the first ever world championship. So that's my number 5.
Okay, Max, you were about 10 months old. What do you remember about that series in 2002?
Not much, at all. Although I have heard of the Rally Monkey.
Rally Monkey.
My number 4 most memorable moment is the happened game 1, October 15th, 1988. Kirk Gibson hits a home run off Dennis Eckersley. This occurred at Dodger Stadium. The A's were heavily favored against the Dodgers. And the Dodgers, their best hitter, their MVP for the year, Kirk Gibson, is on the World Series roster, but it's like he's going to have a hard time playing because he had injured his leg in the playoffs and he could barely walk. Because Gibson was out, the Dodgers had maybe the weakest lineup of a World Series champion in history. They had Mickey Hatcher batting third. Yeah, I know. Who's Mickey Hatcher? The guy who batted third in the 88 World Series. So this Oakland team was loaded. It had Dave Henderson. It had Ricky Henderson. It had Canseco. It had McGuire, Terry Steinbach. These were all-stars. These were great players. And that's not even starting to talk about the pitching staff that was led by Dave Stewart and Storm Davis and other pitchers. Oh, yeah, other pitchers. Yeah. So we'll just go there. But the A's are heavily favored, and it's game 1. And the A's are up 4-3 going into the bottom of the 9th on the strength of a Jose Canseco grand slam. So they bring out Eckersley, and Eckersley was automatic. He was perfect this year. He won the Cy Young Award. And there's 2 outs, and he walks Mike Davis. Okay, Eckersley seldom walked anybody, but he walked Mike Davis. And Kirk Gibson limps out of the dugout, literally limps out of the dugout with a bat, and he's swinging the bat. Look who's coming up. It's amazing. And Gibson does not look good swinging. These are some ugly swings. They have nothing behind them. And he does work the count to 3-2. And he steps in the box and he calls for a timeout. And he took the timeout because he was thinking Eckersley is going to throw that backdoor slider. So he wanted to have a timeout so he could prepare himself to swing for the backdoor slider. Sure enough, Eckersley comes in with the backdoor slider. Gibson puts a terrible swing on this ball. I still don't know how it got out. It's like he looked like a 60-year-old man swinging. He looked like me swinging the bat. And the ball just kind of jumped and just kind of this little fly ball that just kept going and landed in the stands. And they won game 1. And it was just the most amazing thing. And that catapulted the Dodgers into winning the World Series that year in 5 games. That was the only World Series at bat for Kirk Gibson. They didn't need him the rest of the series, but they did have Hershiser pitching, and he was pitching his head off that year. That's the year he broke Drysdale's scoreless inning streak. But it was almost surreal. I was sitting in my duplex in Kansas City, and me, my ex-wife, my sister, and her husband. And when he hit it, we're all like, that ball went out. How did it go out? So that's my number 4 memory.
Well, Vince, great minds think alike, because my number 4 is 1998, game 1, Dodgers Athletics, Kirk Gibson's home run. Say I have it in the same spot you do, number 4. I was in the Navy in 1988. I was watching it at the YMCA. I'd go down to the YMCA. I'm the only one in the room. I don't know about you guys, but when you watch a sporting event or a movie and something great happens, it's nice to look over at somebody and you both nod like, "Oh yeah, that was something else." I had nobody with me. Okay, so the story is that Kurt, Tommy Lasorda, the great coach of the Dodgers, would say, "Can you go in?" He goes, "I'll let you know. I'll let you know." And he'd go back and come back and sit down. And around the eighth inning, he told him, "I think I got one at bat left in me." And Vince, I don't know about you, but when he came up in that dugout, because the fans were kind of watching him, the camera was watching him. When he came up out of that dugout, went on the on deck circle, it seems like the energy of the game changed, just something magical. And when he came in there, he, like you said, he looked terrible. And if anybody was a sure thing, it was Dennis Eckersley that year. There was a cut about 3 years there where Eck was about as perfect as you can be. And he was chopping up Gibson. And like you said, that one pitch, he would barely get a foul ball. And then that one pitch. And it just, usually when a pitcher gives up a home run, he looks down and dejected. He knows immediately. But Eck just turned around. Are they going to catch that thing? And it just drifted out. Now, from that moment, the energy of the room, you could see the camera shaking, and you could see Kirk Gibson just galloping around the bases. He couldn't even run. And he got around second. He did that little arm fist thing there at second base. The crowd is just so ecstatic. Jack Buck called that game. I can't believe what I just saw. Oh my gosh, that was something else. And you covered that so well there. The only other thing I have is the A's had Carney Lansford at third base. I was always a big Carney Lansford fan. And then Tony La Russa, all those guys over there. And I remember the Dodgers had Franklin Stubbs and Steve Sachs was a pretty good player. Game one was Dave Stewart, who Mr. 20 game winner for 4 years in a row, versus Tim Belcher. A nice pro pitcher, but he didn't have the kind of year career Dave Stewart had. But what a game. That changed the whole series on its head, because like you said, the A's were heavily favored. They were just so good. And the Dodgers won it that year. So things can happen like that. So that's my number 4 as well as yours.
Have you seen the replay of that, Max?
I'm watching it right now, but yeah, I've seen it before.
Is that not the ugliest home run swing you've ever seen?
Yeah, it's not amazing.
Yeah, it's just so underwhelming. Well, my number 3 is Game 7, October 27th of 1991, and I have the Twins' Deke, Lonnie Smith. This is at the Metrodome, and Game 7, Jack Morris is squaring off against John Smoltz, 2 Hall of Famers. Game 6 had been won in the bottom of the ninth, the night before. Was that the ninth or extra innings? But anyway, on a Kirby Puckett home run.
It was extra innings.
Yeah, so Kirby Puckett hits a home run. Game goes into, so we have a Game 7. And in the 8th inning, Lonnie Smith led off with a single. Lonnie Smith, former Cardinal, finished second in the MVP in '82 with the Cardinals. Really good player who was a speedster who couldn't field, but he was a speedster. And at this point in his career, he's not nearly the speedster he was, but he's more of a hitter. He's added some thump to his game. So he's still a really good player. So he leads off with a single. So they have a hit and run on, and Terry Pendleton hits a deep fly ball that falls for a double. So with the hit and run on, you think that Lonnie Smith's going to score. But the Metrodome was so loud and so disoriented. Smith is breaking towards second, and he hears the crack because it's a hit and run. He's running. He doesn't pick up the ball anywhere, and he sees the shortstop Gagne fake that he's going to catch the ball, and he flips it, the fake ball, the no ball, to Knobloch as if it's a double play, and it completely deked Lonnie Smith. So Lonnie Smith froze, and he didn't know what had happened. He thought, okay, there's a double play. Wait a minute, where's the ball? And by the time he realizes that the ball's in play, he can only get to third. So it's the eighth inning. You got runners on second and third. You should have had runner on second and run at home easily. But because he was deked second and third, at that time, Tom Kelly left in Jack Morris, who got out of the 2-on in scoring position with nobody out in the eighth inning of Game 7 of the World Series. That's how much times have changed. And he got out of it. And the game went into the 10th. And in the 10th inning, Gene Larkin hit the game-winning hit. The Twins won 1-0 in 10 innings. Jack Morris complete game shutout, which put him in the Hall of Fame, a place he maybe shouldn't be in, but he's there anyway. And the Metrodome just went crazy. And that's one of the reasons why I became a Twins fan, is because watching the 87 and the 91 World Series, how rabid those fans would get in those playoff conditions. It was like really cool to see. So that's my number 3 memory.
Well, Vince, do you want me to talk about that game? Because that's my number 2 memory.
Sure.
That's my number 2. And like you said, John Smoltz, legend, versus Jack Morris, the stud. That's why I always call Jack Morris the stud. In 84, I just love Jack Morris with that Detroit Tiger team, which I think is the best team I ever seen play. And they just walked all through that season and through the playoffs, to the World Series, won it all. And now here he is in 1991. And I call this day, October 27, 1991, as famous as the day that Bobby Joe McAllister jumped off the Tallahatchie Bridge. That's how famous that day is right there. And Vince, I knew you would know that reference right there. But what a game. 1-0, 10 innings. This whole series was great. I believe there was 5 extra inning games.
Yeah, this is the best World Series I've ever seen, and a lot of people rate it the best World Series ever.
I agree. And 6
the year
of the
before,
7 games, 1 run.
For last place teams.
Yes, last to first, both teams. And 6 of the 7 games were just won by 1 game. So what a series. Names everybody can recognize. Smoltz went 7 1/3. I mean, he had an outstanding game too. He had 6 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 4 Ks. But Jack Morris, I'm telling you what was that? 10 innings pitched, 7 hits, 2 walks, 8 Ks. He was the MVP of the series. And just something to see. And I mean, some of the names, Pendleton, Gant, Justice, Sid Bream, to get to the World Series. The famous Sid Bream race around third base against the Pirates, where he was safe at home in that, to send the Braves to the World Series.
That's the playoff series where Van Slyke in center tells Barry Bonds to move in, and Barry Bonds does this to him and stays where he is, and Sid Bream scores from second on a base hit he should have gotten thrown out at. So that was the first of the Barry Bonds is a real jerk lore. That's kind of I started for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many stories about Bonds, and I've never been a fan, and that one World Series I didn't want to win in that thing, anything but him. But also, the Twins had some Dan Gladden, Knobloch, of course, the great Kirby Puckett. Tony Oliva was one of the coaches on the team with Tom Kelly. He was a coach on that team too, and I always was a big Tony Oliva fan. Anyway, what a World Series. You covered that so well, but that one there was number 2 for me, because Jack Morris always was a fan. I remember it was late. It was kind of cold that night, and they were in the dome playing, and my gosh, it was so good to see that. So, yeah, that was my number 2 memory right there.
Okay, what's your number 3?
Well, my number 3, I'm a Cardinal fan. My friends would turn on me if I didn't have one Cardinal one, and mine is.
I stayed away because otherwise I just had the 2016 World Series.
Well, yeah, well, this game, what I remember about it so much is 2011 Game 6, the famous David Freese game, and during the season, David Freese, he was in his 3rd year in the big leagues, and this year he played more than he had the first 2 seasons. He was a .297 hitter. That very, very good. He had 10 home runs and 1 triple for the whole season. The reason I bring that up is because things changed in that day. 55 RBIs for the whole season, and then here he is with 2 outs, and he had a 2-run triple in the 9th inning to tie the game up. The Cardinals were one strike away from losing the World Series. And to be honest with you, I've talked to a lot of people about that game, and I don't know one person that thought we're going to come back and win this thing. I was pretty much in the mode of, well, it was a good year. We came so close. And then for some reason, Nelson Cruz is playing right field. Thank the Lord Nelson Cruz was in right field, because that ball slipped over his glove off the wall. The Cardinals come back at 7-7. But that's not it. The game continues. It goes to extra innings. In the 10th inning, Josh Hamilton, who was just, an MVP candidate at that time, comes up and hits a 2-run home run off of Jason Mott, a Cardinal and ex-Cub, ex-Cardinal, ex-Cub, and that makes the game 9-7. But hold the fort. Now you're thinking, they come this. The baseball gods can't do this to us. We've come so far in this incredible back and forth game, and now to lose it in the 10th inning. But in the bottom of the 10th, Ryan, I always have trouble with his name, Terrio. He was a Cub and a Cardinal. He came up with a ground out RBI, and then Daniel Descalso had a run scoring single to tie the game back up. And so they go to the 11th inning. We hold them scoreless. The pitcher was, oh my gosh, he was a Cleveland Indian pitcher. We got Westbrook. Westbrook held they held them scoreless. And then we come up, and David Freese with an 0-1 count. I'll never forget this. Hits that ball in the center field, and you see all the fans running on the grass trying to get the ball. And it's Joe Buck at this time calling the game. It kind of repeats one of his dad's famous sayings. We'll see you again tomorrow night. And it was Game 7, and I went to Game 7. A little side note: K fans had a craziest fan contest, and I told everybody, ain't nobody crazier than me. I went up there, got 2 seats, and went to Game 7 and seeing what's the chances you've seen your team win a World Series in a Game 7 at home. I don't know if it's ever going to happen again. I was there for Game 7, won those tickets, and so anyway, that I'll never forget that night or those times. And if we never win another World Series in my lifetime, that was a pretty darn good one right there.
Yeah, my wife spent the winter rewatching that World Series. I never watched it again. So
they sold DVDs. They sold DVDs. I think McDonald's was giving them out, and you could get. And I think everybody owned that series on DVD.
So sometimes having a mixed marriage is not the funnest thing in the world. So my second greatest World Series memory came Game 6, October 18th, 1977. Reggie goes deep 3 times on 3 straight pitches. This happened in Yankee Stadium. The Yankees are up 3-2 against the Dodgers in the World Series. Reggie's first time up, I believe he walked. And then he comes up in the bottom of the 4th, homers off Bert Hooton. First pitch he sees. Bottom of the 5th, first pitch he sees off Elias Sosa. He hits a home run. And then he comes up in the 8th against Charlie Huff. Very first. When he faced Huff, I thought, well, he's not going to hit another home run because he's not going to take the knuckleball out. First pitch, knuckleball. It's in center field. So Reggie hits 3 home runs in Game 6 of the World Series. The Yankees win the World Series 4-2. Reggie had 5 home runs in the 6 games, set a new World Series record or something. He tied the Babe there, but 3 home runs in 1 game was a record at the time that Pujols has since tied. But I was 11. I was an 11-year-old kid,
Right.
and that was magic. I was not a Dodgers fan. I was not a Yankees fan. I didn't like that the Yankees beat the Royals in the playoffs, but even me and my 11-year-old immature mind had to say, wow, that was some performance by Mr. October.
I have that as an honorable mention. I have a Reggie Jackson Yankee and a Reggie Jackson A's jersey. My first recollection of pro baseball was, I think, 73 World Series. He came out on crutches. He had got hurt at the end of the year, and they'd still announce him. The crowd would go crazy, and I'm like, who's this guy? I didn't know much about baseball. And I would just say, who's this guy that they're cheering? And he's coming out on crutches. And from that day on, I'm sort of a Reggie Jackson fan. Who is this guy? And then that game there, I was like, oh, Mr. October. That was just legendary stuff in the biggest city with the greatest franchise. And he's got that hat. He's tipping the cap to the crowd. Magic. And his kids, seems like when you have memories like that, they're just bigger. It's almost like a fairy tale kind of thing when you watch the game. But man, Reggie Jackson was something else. I seen Reggie Jackson strike out against Bob Welch in another game, and it was one of the best at bats I ever seen. It was like a 12 pitching at bat. Remember that one?
That was the first game of the '78 World Series. And Welch struck him out. Yeah, about 55 pitches.
Here's my fastball, hit it, and he got fouled it off, and he had his home run swing on too. Well, Vince, my number one. I don't know if this is your number one. 1975 Game 6.
No.
Oh,
so this
is my favorite game ever.
That's my first of my honorable mentions, by the way.
Oh, 1975 Game 6. Baseball at this point in time, football was starting to pass it in popularity, and TV, it was real basic, maybe 2 cameras. Well, they had some more cameras for this World Series. In this game, it's the Boston Red Sox, who is kind of my American League team because I love Ted Williams. It was the Red Sox versus the big red machine of the Cincinnati Reds. And oh my gosh, the lineups are star-studded. And this is Game 6 back in Boston. Cincinnati took a 3-2 game lead, and there was 3 nights of a rain out. So you had to sit there with no baseball. Like, are they not going to play baseball? And finally, after the rain subsided, it's Game 6. Everybody's got turtlenecks and jackets on, the players. And here's some of my notes from the game, because it was back and forth. But what a game. It was Darrell Johnson was the coach of the Red Sox, and Sparky Anderson, the great coach of the Cincinnati Reds. Louis Tiant. Oh, the way he spun, would look off into the heavens and then throw, sort of like a Fernando Valenzuela type of pitching style. Don Gullett for the Reds, one of their ace. I'm telling you what, and it started off the game. Fred Lynn, if any of you don't know Fred Lynn was a rookie who was Rookie of the Year. Was he also the MVP?
Yeah.
He was incredible. He hit a 3-run homer in the first inning. Red Sox fans are going crazy. In the 5th, the Reds put up 3 runs of their own. And let's see. It just went back and forth. George Foster hit a home run in that game. There was a play in the 8th inning. Cesar Cedeno, just these great names, some of these people I'm mentioning, but they had the lead going late into the game. And in the bottom of the 8th, Pedro Barbone, who is a very good reliever, Cardinals had him at one time, he goes up, and Fred Lynn missed a play off the Green Monster and hit his ribs and hurt his ribs. And I've heard him say later he was kind of barely conscious, and he couldn't feel his legs for about 3 innings. He crashed into the Green Monster so hard. But we go into the bottom of the 8th. The Reds are winning 6-3. Barbone, who is a very good reliever, gives up a hit, and he walks. Remember this name? Rico Petrocelli, the third baseman of the Red Sox. So they got 2-1, and they bring in Raleigh Eastwick, and Raleigh Eastwick gets 2 outs, and the Red Sox bring in Bernie Carbo, who fouls off a few pitches and finally hits a home run. And as he's running around, the game's tied 6-6. He's running around third, and Pete Rose was the third baseman for the Reds. And he goes, "Hey, you think you're strong enough to hit that one?" And Rose goes, "Man, this is so much fun." Pete Rose, that guy, man, he just was having a blast playing in this star-studded, incredible game. We go to the bottom of the 9th. There's a play where the Reds have the first man gets on base. Griffey tries to bunt it. Fisk, these names, Griffey Sr., Carlton Fisk, gets the ball, throws out Rose at second base. And then there's a play where Joe Morgan's hit a double. But to Dewey Evans, this right fielder extraordinaire, makes an acrobatic play, comes up. Griffey's got to run back to first, and Dewey Evans nails into first base for a double play. Just play after play after play. But this all leads us up to a very dramatic moment in the bottom of the 12th inning on a 1-0 count. Carlton Fisk, with the game tied, hits a ball right down the line, and they had that extra camera, and he's jumping and he's wheeling the ball just to hit the foul pole because it's going right down the line. It hits the foul pole, and I think that's one of the most iconic moments of baseball history where Fisk is jumping. It looks like he's jumping 10 foot in the air, and he's having that bring that ball back in fair, and it hits the foul pole. The Red Sox win, and it was an incredible game. Now we go to game 7. The Reds end up winning the World Series, but that game 6 was something. I was exhausted after. It just went back and forth. Great player after great player. And those lineups, you look at those lineups, everybody's household names on those lineups. So that's my all-time favorite game right there.
Well, for the honorable mentions, I got Fisk waving the ball fair in the 75 World Series, the Rally Monkey for the Angels 2002 World Series. Scott Brosius hitting the home run off Kim in the 2001 Series Game 5. The Diamondbacks did eventually come back and win that, but that was a big moment. Scott Pasednik in the 2005 World Series hitting a walk-off home run in Game 2 when he hadn't hit a home run in 500 at-bats during the season. And then I also included Glavine, 8 innings, 1 hit versus Cleveland, Game 6 in 1995. But my number one memory happened Game 6, October 23rd, 1993 in the Sky Dome in Toronto. The Blue Jays have a 3-2 advantage over the Phillies, and the Phillies had a 6-5 lead going into the bottom of the 9th inning, and Mitch Williams, former Cub, the wild thing, comes into close. He walks Ricky Henderson, and after an out, Molitor hit a single, so there's 2 guys on, and Joe Carter comes to bat. Joe Carter had not had a good World Series up to that point, and he sent a 2-2 pitch over the left field wall to win the series. And a lot of people think it was the national broadcaster. It's actually not. It was the Toronto broadcaster. I can't remember his name right now. He said, "Touch them all, Joe. You're not going to hit a bigger one in your life." But Carter hit the home run to win the World Series, and the fans went crazy. And Joe Carter was a former Cub. Mitch Williams was a former Cub, but I always liked Joe Carter. We got rid of him in the Sutcliffe trade. He had a near Hall of Fame career, and that was just so incredible to see him just jumping up and down as exuberant as can be. So
very good.
So Max, what's your World Series memories?
I don't have a ton. 2016, I do remember a little bit of 2011 just because that's all people talked about at school the next day. I was in elementary school at the time. People were so happy. We haven't had too many great World Series since 2016. I guess 2019 with the Astros and the Nationals, that was really exciting. But 2020 was kind of, I barely count it. I guess the Randy Rosarena walk-off was really entertaining. I don't know if you guys remember that, but
yeah,
just being confused as to what had happened. Because I couldn't actually watch the game. I was keeping track on game day on my phone. I saw in-play runs, and then like this huge blob of text pops up where it's like, like 3 errors are committed, and Randy's caught between home and third, and he doesn't know where to go, and he trips, and it was crazy. But yeah, I don't have a ton.
Plate.
Yeah, pounds on the plate.
And not meaning to brag, but the best World Series we've had in the past 10 years has been the 2016 World Series. So that was nip and tuck. So I am opening Donruss. I think this is 1990. What are you opening?
Well, it will be baseball. It will be baseball cards this time. I have 90 tops right there, 90 tops. So we both are in the 1990 season.
All right, Max, let us know if you've heard of these people. And I have a puzzle piece of Carl Yastrzemski. That says
Okay.
he's
Yeah.
going skiing,
He-
I guess. My first, this guy pitched for the Cubs. He shouldn't have. He closed for the Astros. He was past his prime when he tried to close for the Cubs. Dave Smith. Dave Smith was a fly ball pitcher, which worked really good in the Astrodome, not so much in Wrigley Field. Hey, we just talked about this guy, great pitcher, Bob Welch for the Oakland A's at that time, also pitched for the Dodgers. And Welch,
27 wins 1 year.
This was 1990 was the year he won 27 games. We haven't had a pitcher win that many games since then.
Whoa!
Oh, look at this. The Hall of Famer himself, Ryan Sandberg.
Ryan Sandberg. Very good.
Mike
You're on a
Fetters.
roll. Oh, yeah. Rated rookie.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I got a George Canal.
The George Canal?
Yeah.
Never heard of him.
Al's brother. Oh, yeah. He was good.
Former Card. What's that?
He was a giant. That's all I remember him as. Is giant.
Former Cardinal, Joe Baver.
I didn't know much about him, but yeah.
In 11 games in 86, he had a 1.66 ERA for you guys.
Oh, man. Yeah. Look out, it's Koufax.
Greg Myers. Max, you remember Greg Myers?
No.
Me neither. Okay. I stuck to my green screen. It was like just floating there. How cool is that? Former Met, former Philly, former Indian.
Oh, yes.
Roger McDowell. Let's see if I can.
Was he on Seinfeld? Was he on Seinfeld one time? Roger McDowell?
He may have been.
In the spitting incident?
Outfielder, Roberto Kelly.
Roberto Kelly.
Let's see if I can get it to stick on this side.
Hey.
No. Dadgummit. Scott Scudder.
Great
I know
baseball
the
name.
name. Yeah.
He better have thrown the Scudder Cutter. I don't know. That'd have been great.
Look out.
Former catcher, he caught for the Cardinals for a spot, Pat Borders.
Oh, yeah.
Catcher for those Blue Jays World Series teams.
Mm-hmm.
Former All-Star, Wally Joyner.
Wally was World. Kansas City Royal, too.
Oh, when I say lopsided trade and I have Randy Johnson in there, who do you think of? Mark Lang.
Who got traded? Oh, is that? Oh, okay.
Uh-oh. Here's my wife's favorite player of all time, Diamond
Tommy
King.
Herr?
Tommy Herr, yeah.
Tommy
Like
Herr.
the green screen, how?
Yes.
That's pretty
You
cool.
see right through it.
Yeah. And former Red Sox catcher, Rich Gedman.
Oh, yeah. I think Gedman played for the Cardinals
He
for
did?
like a year as well. Look at that. The magic man right there. Well, these 91 tops, these 91 tops kind of have a 75 tops vibe to them. And the first one I have is California Angel Greg Minton. That's about as far as I can get before they fade out.
Minton. Yes.
Yeah, there he is. I think he was a giant. The one I remember him as a giant more than anything. A rated rookie here. He's got the little rookie trophy. Seattle Mariner Greg Briley. Never had the big career or anything, but there he is taking a swing. Greg Briley. This guy is the same guy I'm thinking of. He's a Red Sox here, but Joe Price, pitcher Joe Price. I think it was a Cincinnati Red at one time.
He was Cincinnati Red. Came out with the red.
Yeah, because we played them so much. Oh, El Presidente, Montreal Expos. There he is with a little chew in his mouth. Denny Martinez. He was their ace for
Nicaragua.
Oh, is that where he's from?
Yeah.
Here's guy. He was on our team, but he was known as another team. But it's Dan Quisenberry. He threw that submarine type pitching.
Yeah.
Great Kansas City Royal player right there. Good guy. Milwaukee Brewer. I don't know much about this guy, but I know the name Bill Wigman. He was a reliever.
I remember him.
I remember him. Him and Plesac were in that bullpen. You say Wally Joyner, I say Wally Joyner. There he is with the Angels.
Okay.
Right there. Yeah. Oh, here's an all-star card. A guy we both, a cubby, Fred McGriff, the crime dog right there.
There you go.
Yeah. I love Fred.
Now, Hall of Famer.
That's right. Yankee. Do you know Jimmy Jones?
No.
I don't know.
No.
Don't he make a 5-minute sub sandwich? Jimmy Jones. Oh, here's a guy. You know, he had a nice career. Philadelphia Philly, Pittsburgh Pirate, Bob Walk. He pitched in a lot of playoffs and stuff. A very good picture.
Yeah. That was just a stage name. His real name was Bob Base on Balls.
Oh.
After 21 years, Max just barely like, oh gosh, here it goes.
I knew it was coming. I didn't know how it would come, but it was there.
Oh, there's an old joke. Something about what do you do with a giraffe with 3 balls?
You walk him and pitch to the rhino.
Yes, very good. All right, I set him up. You knock him in. There you go. Detroit Tiger, Doug Strange. Oh, woo, Doug Strange. All right.
He's a weirdo.
There he goes again.
There he is. Oh, Toronto Blue Jay, Glenn Allen Hill. Was he a Cub?
Yeah,
Yes.
He hit that monster home run.
Oh, okay.
Over.
Oh, the one you
Over
talked
the
about.
building.
Yeah. Over the building. There he is. He's smiling. He's satisfied right there.
And he was the guy when he was with, I think, the Blue Jays, had a nightmare that spiders were on him. And in the commotion of waking up, he injured himself. Had to go on the DL.
He fell through like a glass coffee table or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That was him. I didn't know it was going on the hill. I had that spider dream. Good luck. What did he eat before he went to bed? All right, this guy here, Cardinal at one time, Greg Jeffries, right there, rated rookie. He's got the little trophy. But Jeffries was on that bunch of players. They had like 3 guys they thought were going to take him to the next level for years to come. Dave Magadan, Greg Jeffries, and there was like a 3rd guy in that bunch. I can't remember who it was, but they all came up about the same time. And my last card,
a pretty good career.
He did really well. He filled in. He was our first baseman and was an all-star for us he played 2 years here.
Yeah, he just for a first baseman didn't have all the pop in the world, but he was a good hitter.
Yes, he was. Took good at bats. Yeah, and White Sox Dan Pasqua, right there. There he is.
Dr. Longball.
It is Dr. Longball.
Yeah, he played for the Yankees, and he came up from the minors with that nickname, Dr. Longball.
Oh, okay. I hadn't heard that one. All right. I like that. Dr. Longball. All right. Well, that's it for me on the cards.
That's it for me on the cards. Well, there is an outside chance that next week, while we're doing this, that there may be a game 4 going on that could be a winner. Who knows? Probably not. I hope not, but we'll be in the middle of the World Series. So we'll be back here. And next week I will have a new Cub up here, and he will not be Mr. Obscure like Dave Rosello was. So get you ready so you can get your tally. And that's all I've got.
All right. Well,
I guess
let's have a good World Series.
Have a good World Series. Go Diamondbacks.